You're listening to Nac Chat with Amy Mahaffey, straight from the City of Nacogdoches, where we chat all things Nac. We make any topic fun, and I'll take you behind the scenes of the oldest town in Texas.
We're in this fun setting.
Yes.
In this fun room.
And it's used by interns.
Yes, which is why we're here today.
Yes.
So tell us who you are, and then I will do the same, and then we're going to jump right in.
Okay. I am Laura Philpot, and I am the president and CEO of the Nacogdoches Economic Development Corporation.
Cool. You never thought you'd be doing an interview in the clubhouse.
I know.
Okay, and I'm Amy Mahaffey, and I am the crazy communications director. We waited until the afternoon to do this, so we would be kind of loopy and out of it, so that's kind of fun. And so we want these to be casual and fun, and so I'm excited to hear all the things that you have to say, because we talk a lot about interns here at the City of Nacogdoches, because we love interns at the City of Nacogdoches.
We do. I used to be an intern at the City of Nacogdoches.
Tell us that. Tell us all about that.
Here's my story that my parents love to tell people. So
That's cute.
Yeah, it's funny. They love it. So when I was a sophomore at SFA, I just stumbled upon an internship with the City of Nacogdoches. That was back in the dark ages when job postings were a little less formal than there was a job posting, but it was on a piece of paper.
Right. Literally a posting.
Literally on a piece of paper. It's literally a posting on a literal bulletin board. But I stumbled on that and got an internship with the planning department. I was an environmental science student at SFA, and it really actually changed my course of study and my career path at the same time. I didn't know what a city planner was.
Right.
I know I wanted to be one. Certainly didn't know what an economic developer was. And I was an intern for the city for 3 years while I got my degree.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was really cool because my professors in forestry were great about encouraging me to use my work as a subject for my study.
Yeah.
So,
of course. That makes perfect sense.
So when I wrote papers, I could work in things that I was working on at the city.
Double duty.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so it was beneficial to the city because I was producing this kind of scientific academic research.
Yeah.
And then it was beneficial to me in my coursework, of course, because I could use it as a subject and I could go interview, officials, and I had all of the access to all of this resources.
Right.
Yeah.
That's cool. And so here you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I had
20 years later,
a slightly less glamorous internship, but I loved it nonetheless. I worked at the cotton co-op in Lubbock, Texas.
Awesome.
I was an ag major, ag communications. And so communications is communications, right? So I might not be talking to cotton farmers every day anymore, but I love cotton farmers. So just saying,
we're in
shout
cotton
out
right now, right?
to the cotton queens. But I also learned a lot of the writing skills and a lot of the things that we developed on those like very tangible projects, which is what you're saying, go right into what I do every day at the city.
Right.
So I like video editing, which we do now at the cotton co-op, believe it or not. I like sales. I mean, it was legislative affairs, which is, we work for the city, so that ties right in.
Yeah. And it probably pulled you out of your comfort zone a bit. I know you're an ag kid, but you weren't a cotton kid. And so it's...
Yeah. I grew up on a cotton farm.
Right. So it taught you how to learn on the job. And by the time you left, you were an expert on cotton.
And when you work here, this is a great example. When you work in a job where we were laughing when we were talking about doing this video that I wouldn't have relatable information because of the cotton deal. But now that I'm sitting here talking about it, when you are told on your first week of work that, hey, you need to go interview this old cotton farmer and he's on the tractor in the middle of his field, have at it. You figure it out real quick. And so that is like perfect to get thrown into something as an intern.
That on-the-job learning.
Yeah.
And the great thing about having interns is your boss at the time said, go out in that field and communicate with that farmer, and you did it and you were excited about it. Whereas...
And I never forgot it, obviously.
Right. And whereas I'm not saying that he was shoveling off jobs on you that he didn't want to do, because that's bad. We don't want anybody doing that. You were excited about something that he'd probably done 100 times before.
Right.
And you were using it as a learning experience, and you were gung-ho and excited about it. And that farmer benefited from you talking to him too, because he'd talked to the guy 100 times before too.
Yeah.
So it's just nice to get to use interns and internships to get fresh blood into an organization.
Absolutely. So part of the overall, let's kind of talk about the overall like pie in the sky way to deal with interns, because I have my own philosophy and kind of how we do it at the city, which I would like to think is very effective. We've had some very successful interns,
Absolutely.
but some people might not relate to that as easily. So let's kind of like break down each challenge and the way we communicate with each like age group.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's start with like who is probably like in management right now that might be hiring the intern. What do we need to know about those people?
So the greatest generation, sometimes they're referred to as, it's funny, whoever writes the article titles their generation as the best name.
Oh, that's so funny.
It's so funny. You can so tell who wrote the
Who
article.
wrote it? Okay.
But the greatest generation, also called the traditionalists,
Okay.
Are people that were basically born before World War II.
Okay.
So those are folks who honestly are retiring out of the workplace now. But before they leave, they're a wealth of knowledge.
Right.
They're a golden resource for any organization. And you guys know who they are. You know who those people are in your organization. And they also really value hard work. So if you've got something that's going to take a lot of effort and a lot of energy, those are your people that know how to get it done. And they are like nose to the grindstone, kind of, we're going to sit here and make this happen. Kind of
and
people.
how do they appreciate interns? They like to be
resources.
And like mentors and kind of help people.
Yeah. They want to help. They want to share. They want to share their knowledge. They're proud of what they've done and they want to help other people get to the same position that they're in now.
Okay. That's valuable, because you probably have businesses in Nacogdoches that have somebody, maybe that's not the person that's in management. That could be, it's very plausible that it is, but it might be somebody that's also in the office that can say, one of my big things with interns is don't just say, here go stuffed envelopes.
Right.
Because then they don't want to come back.
Right.
So if you said, here, this is your mentor, this person's going to teach you what he knows or she knows about the business, then that person feels fulfilled and the intern feels fulfilled.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And it doesn't have to be just about business. I can't tell you how many interns that I've sat down and talked to about just their career path.
Right.
Or how to balance life and home.
Yeah.
Or life and work. See, I said
still
it backwards.
Yeah.
But still. I think mentorship goes beyond just here's how to do this job better.
We have a lot of therapy sessions in my office with the interns, which I love, because those questions come up and they need to feel like, I say they, and I don't mean that, interns need to feel like they are appreciated and understood in a different way.
Right. Absolutely.
So let's talk about the next group of people that might be in the workforce.
So on my cheat sheet here, we have baby boomers.
Okay.
And we all know that iconic generation. They were the baby boom after World War II.
Yeah.
So 46 to 64.
Okay.
They are optimists, because when they were born, the United States was rich.
Yep.
We all had jobs. We were producing massive amounts of things. It was a very optimistic time. They also produced what some people necessarily don't like, the whole call me anytime, I work 24 hours a day.
Accessibility.
Yes.
That thing that millennials say. Whoa.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
That's probably a product of their parents, the boomers' accessibility attitude, because their parents were such hard workers. Their parents were from the Depression era.
Yeah.
And they very much valued hard work.
Okay.
And so at a time when accessibility can be 24 hours a day, they're open to it because that's the way their parents raised them.
Okay. And those people, how do they like to communicate? How might they communicate with an intern?
So they like to talk face to face.
Okay.
And that sometimes might be a little bit of a struggle for an intern, because interns are the group we're calling interns, this Generation Z, I think we discovered they're called. They maybe don't always like that. Millennials like yourself, you're making the scrunchy face.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily want to talk face to face.
Yeah.
But to get that valued resource, they have as important of a wealth of knowledge as the generation before them.
Right.
To get access to that, talk to them face to face.
Go into their office and speak to them.
Yes.
And they don't think that you're bothering them.
Exact. That's a great point.
Right.
Because you and I, even though we're from two separate generations, we're not boomers.
Yeah.
And I feel like that sometimes. I feel like I don't want to go bother that person. And when I get there, they're like, oh, yeah, sit down. I want to talk to you.
Okay. So that's helpful, because these sound like silly things, but an intern that's maybe a student at SFA right now needs to know you can walk into, what's the age that you said? If you think that your supervisor is age 50,
I can't do that math in my head.
I'm sorry.
They were born between 46 and 64.
Okay.
So they're probably in their 60s.
Yeah, okay. So if you feel like that might be who your supervisor is, they want you to come talk to them.
Right.
And that sounds like a silly thing to kind of throw out there, but communication is key.
Right. Now, you may have to make an appointment, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But they want to see your face.
Okay.
So,
cool.
And they like to mentor, and they like to be resources too.
I love it.
Those folks on the other side, though, how do we give back to them? They like to be recognized. They like awards.
Oh, interesting.
So if you've got a phenomenal boss and you're an intern, and there's like a small business of the year
or something,
or some type of recognition that you can give back to them.
Okay.
A recognition if you're an intern, and you can recognize them somehow through your department at SFA to say, my boss is an amazing intern advisor.
Okay.
How can we help recognize them? I think that's super cool.
That's a good
for that recognition to go both ways.
I love that. Okay, so what's the next group? I think this is my people.
So next, these are your people. These are my people.
Oh, okay.
These are the Gen Xers.
Okay.
We're the children of the boomers.
Got it.
And we're skeptical and realists.
Okay.
Because we were born during the 70s and 80s when things got a little tough in the United States a little bit. There was, great big oil booms and busts.
Yes.
And there was great stock market booms and busts. And so we're skeptical because we've seen peaks and valleys.
Change. Okay.
And we also, right now, and granted this changes as time goes on, this is the sandwich generation, meaning they're taking care of their children and possibly their parents at the same time.
Ah, okay. So time is scarce for these folks.
Yes.
So be cognizant of that.
Yes.
Okay.
So they don't want to see your face in a meeting, but that doesn't mean they don't love you. It means they're just trying to do 9 other things.
Yeah.
And so they need to be able to multitask.
Okay.
And if you're sitting in a meeting face to face, they can't.
They feel like that they could be doing other things.
Right.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that they don't want to communicate with you. So send them emails, phone calls.
Interesting.
Things like that are better for that generation.
This is a nice reminder. Because I know these things, but as we're sitting here talking, I'm like, okay.
It is.
I need to remember all of this.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about me.
So perfect for the transition there. So you are a millennial, my dear.
Woo, millennials. We get a bad rap.
You do.
I hate that.
Do. No, but you're passionate and creative.
I know. We're awesome.
Yeah. And very self-confident.
Yes.
It seems.
I think that might just be an Amy thing. But okay. But we like to multitask as well.
Mm-hmm.
We are a little more interested in the technology.
Mm-hmm.
So your generation is too, but and especially when we move on to the generation below me, the amount of technology we had access to happened earlier in life as we moved down, obviously. And so when we talk about the way we communicate, it's more casual. You can send me a Facebook message, and I think that that's just as much business as an email.
Right.
And I'm okay with that.
And you're the first generation that feels that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And so...
But that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, no, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
But I think, like I just said, it's a good reminder that not everybody is. And that's okay.
Right. Absolutely.
So that's just experience. Like, I know who I can Facebook message about work and who I can't. And that's a silly example, but those are the things that you want interns to learn.
Right. And that's what takes time, is that you have to turn the communication around and remember that a mass communication is sending and receiving.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you got to think about your audience when you're sending.
Okay.
Because they may not receive it.
Absolutely.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. So like day one of communication college.
Yeah. You went to communication college. I went to environmental science college.
Okay. And then our Jen.
Let me say something nice though about you.
Okay.
We need to give you problems to solve. So your millennial generation, that's 1980s, early 1980s, to what did we say, about 2000 folks that are born in that time period.
Yeah.
If you've got a big problem to solve, give it to your millennial generation to work on.
Because they want to be creative about finding a solution.
Right. They will brainstorm it. On the flip side, millennial generation may need a little bit of pushing to follow through to the completion.
Okay.
And that's where your earlier traditionalists and boomers come in.
That's a non-issue.
To say, we're going to get it done.
Okay.
And this is our plan. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So you're the creative problem solver, and then you've got somebody else behind you going, okay, here's our follow through.
Or here's a deadline.
Right.
Right. So
Deadline.
you do all these things, but get me to here by this time.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
And so you could have an intern that is a millennial.
You could.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So bridging that gap is important to go, okay, this person may want that, like they're very self-assured, as you all witnessed in my little excitement about talking about millennials. And they might need a little bit of freedom in how they work, but they still need the structure of like, I need this to be done by this time.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, the generation that's presumably in college right now is most of where most of the interns are going to come from.
Right.
Give some folks enlightenment to how to communicate with those individuals.
So these are your true technology natives.
Right.
But what you and I have found in our readings and with working with interns, even though they are true technology natives and they're used to Snapchatting you and every single different kind of informal communication, what they really value most is someone talking to them face to face.
Isn't that funny?
Which is funny because that goes back to our earliest generation in the whole workplace.
I love that. It's kind of poetic.
Right. So that means that you get your greatest generation, your traditionalists, and your what are we calling you folks?
Gen Z.
Gen Z.
Yeah, the Gen Z.
And you put them together.
And it actually works perfectly.
Yeah, they're going to love to talk to each other face to face.
Okay.
They appreciate the mutual benefits of each generation. They appreciate each other.
Okay. That's funny.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Gen Zers are a little bit more self-aware. And so I think that maybe will allow them to communicate with your traditionalists a little bit better.
Yeah.
They maybe aren't going to be as, I don't want to say not as self-confident, but self-promoting.
Yeah.
And that can turn off a
That's why millennials get a bad rap, because we're the me generation.
Well, but you're very self-confident. Is a positive
but
way
that
of
can
looking at
be
it.
like people when they talk about generations, they go, "Oh, those millennials." And somebody the other day said, "Millennials are like in their 30s now, and they're paying taxes." So like, quit talking about millennials. And they're like, "Oh, I didn't think about that." So this next group is, I have found, I teach a class at SFA, and I love my students, but I told them this the other day, y'all are good at texting, and you're good on your phone, but you don't always know how to go out and find answers.
Explain that.
Like, if I told you, I teach a photography class, and I told them, there will be days, and this has happened to me at the city, where somebody goes, well, the communications person should know how to do this because it has to do with the website. And I have no idea. Right? Like, I didn't go to website school.
Right.
And so the natural fit would be, Amy, go figure it out.
Right.
I'm not in a room full of art directors and writers and web media masters. I'm the only communications person on the staff.
Right.
And not that other people aren't good communicators, but I sometimes have to go find the answer.
Yes. And
that is where I think that encouragement has to happen. Not because they're not good at it, but because people presume just because you're a technology native, you ought to know how to do this.
You can do anything attached to a computer.
Yes, and that's not true.
That's a great point.
I think that the older generation has got to understand, okay, I know you know how to Snapchat, but let me show you how to put a formula in Excel.
Right.
And so there is a gap there.
Absolutely.
That can be helped with an internship.
Right. And it's, I think, kind of what you were describing is a gap between business technology knowledge and informal communications technology knowledge. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Those are two very different realms.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that the Gen Zers can't be good at that business technology.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, it means that they're going to slide right in and figure it out quickly.
Right. Yeah.
But they have to be shown how to do it.
Right. And that's why I think I have felt internships here at the city have been very valuable, because there are things that we do at Main Street and it's not because I don't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's because I think there's a lot of value to be had with, planning an event and booking entertainers and publicizing an event. And those all sound like silly little things, but those are things with restraints and with some guidelines that anybody can learn how to do. And so if you're a hospitality major, that's one of our interns, Peyton, now, she wants to learn about events. Well, that ties right into publicizing for the event and advertising the event and writing a press release. And it goes along with all these things. And so we've developed a structure that has empowered the interns that we have to feel like they've got some ownership over what we're doing so that they want to come to work.
That's
right?
Awesome. Absolutely.
Because if you don't want to come to work and you feel like, okay, I'm just going to stuff envelopes and answer the phone. And I tell them, look, every job has a little bit of that. right? Like I still have to do that. That's not a bad thing to have to do mailings and answer phones and be a receptionist. Like that's there's a lot of skills to learn there.
Mm-hmm.
And we all have to do those as professionals. And that's something that's exciting to do. But it's also not all that you're going to be doing. You're not going to be shoved in the corner.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And I think that ownership is super important to millennials and Gen Z generation. That they don't want to just go be a cog in a wheel. And I think some of the earlier generations were okay with doing that.
Oh, yeah.
And that's not a bad thing. They were there to earn money to support their families.
Sure.
And they were okay with just going to work and doing their job. And millennials have to, and Gen Zers, I think, need to feel passionate about their job and need to feel ownership about that position.
Okay. So where do we go from here with interns? Because we've kind of done a lot of
work. And I think we run low on time. So Handshake is the best way to get interns and the best way to find internships.
Yes, we've done that at the city. We have Handshake products.
Yes, I love Handshake. Yeah. We do have Handshake products. So jobs, I'm reading this out loud, so you guys all write this down. jobs4jax.sfasu.edu, and that is the number 4. jobs4jax.sfasu.edu.
Great.
So anybody can post there as an employer.
Okay.
Only SFA graduates and students can
receive the information.
Okay. Right.
Okay.
And so alumni and students can receive. But there's a gazillion million of us that are SFA graduates and students. Great. So it is not a small pool of people at all.
Sure.
And that's not just for local positions. That's for positions all across the country.
Okay.
All across the state, definitely. So I encourage everybody, if you're a local business, if you're listening to this or watching this from afar, post on there your jobs.
Yep.
And if you're an SFA grad or an SFA student, please go look for jobs there.
Yeah. And don't be afraid of internships. I think that's the way.
No. And
you and NEDCO are working on like a whole plan to promote internships to help businesses. So it's not always going to be about, okay, we need you to have, like, some people, I feel like they think internships are a burden
or scary
and it's going to be a lot of work. And yeah, there's a little bit of effort, but we are going to try to help folks figure out how to kind of break down what we just ran through, but also teach some real skills in recruiting with Handshake and other means, and also how to make the intern successful for your business.
Absolutely. And we will have more information on that, hopefully in a couple of weeks, kind of a quick start guide.
Cool.
And stuff.
I didn't know that. I got excited.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming on this little Clubhouse version of our show.
Yeah, and I think this will be played with the PR Student Society.
Yes.
I hope I got that name correctly.
We are PR NAC.
Yeah, we are PR NAC. I love it. That's great.
I talked to them last week.
Yeah.
They're great.
Yeah. So hello to y'all, and hello to all of our listeners that may hear this someplace else.
Awesome. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.